Hey everybody, what's going on? Emotemp is here, and as promised, I'm finally getting you this Warp Golbez deck you asked for. This will probably be, obviously, for obvious reasons, the last Opus 19. Uh, Opus 19 deck profile here. This is both like good and bad. I was supposed to do it last week before North Carolina, but we got caught up. So I'm giving it to you now, also because it topped at North Carolina, which is cool. So I just had to share my thoughts there. And while Opus 20 has already been released, I'll show you guys some cards that I think could probably improve this deck, or you could add in here to make it a little more interesting. Honestly, the warp thing is going to be very strong, I think, next set in general, so I'm excited about that. But yeah, deck is pretty straightforward, right? You want to warp Golbez, you want to turn one Golbez every time. This deck is by no means control, mid-range, or things like that. It wants to go fast. You're going to draw a bunch of cards. The longer this game goes, my biggest worries are you run out of resources and you run out of deck. I know it sounds silly enough, but if you haven't played this deck before, one of the biggest things you'll realize is that you end up drawing a lot of cards. And the main reason for that is obviously Vayne. If you're unfamiliar with Vayne, and I realize that probably over this weekend a lot of people are unfamiliar with Vayne, is because it's when Vayne enters the field or at the beginning of main phase 1 that he will remove a warp counter from something. And when he does that, he draws you one card. So, if he manages to leave the field, you're drawing. If he manages to stay on the field, he will be drawing about 3 cards, an extra card. So you'll be drawing 3 cards a turn, with something being warped while something is warping or whatever. And so, yeah, it definitely does go really fast. The other reason this deck draws fast is that when you do happen to play an Archfiend off of Golbez, you will also draw a card. So that's 4 cards a turn, in theory. You draw 2, Golbez 1, Vayne 1, done. And yeah, and then just the regular cards, whatever you end up playing in this deck that searches you stuff. And so these are the main ingredients, and the rest we'll go into now. So Ruby Contes, I'm playing a 2-2 spread here, mainly for the Ixion problem, as it was before. Ixion was very relevant, but still, all in all, I think this Ruby Conte, as well paired with the 6-cost Ruby Conte, just becomes such a big problem. The reason we're at a 2-2 split, though, is because it's very nice to see this one early on, but the later we go, sometimes you just want to pitch for something, and then this one works just fine to kill something. So I like playing either one of these early on. It doesn't really matter, but once Golbez is out, the other one might be a little bit, the 2-cost one might be a little bit better, because he takes something out with him when he dies. So he will reflect the power of from Golbez's buff and his damage 3, so he could potentially leave the board and kill something for 11k. Your Warriors of Light, per se. The Barbarecia, I prefer this one over the other ones, because it's just, you want removal. Removal is just something really good to help push the game, right? This is an aggressive deck, so you're going to have multiple bodies on board, and if you can board clear while you're at it, then you kind of just removed all the obstacles, and you just got to pray to dodge EX burst after that. So this one says when she enters, deal 2k for every Archfiend you control. So if the whole group is out, that's 8k to the board. And at the end of the turn, if you control 4 more Archfiends, you may search for a card named Golbez and play it onto the field. Now, for that reason, I kind of considered playing the 5-cost Earth Lightning one, but it only happened maybe once or twice in all the testing I did for you guys, that I found myself needing it or wanting to play this one early on. I don't like the idea of missing the warp, so it was fine if we didn't use that second ability. It's nice, yes, but if you wanted to give it a try, you could obviously do we'll go over the flex spots in the decks shortly, and so you can make a decision for yourself whether you want to swap out one of those for the other Golbez. I'm playing a 3-1 split for the Skarmeleons. I prefer this one, the starter one. He just kind of helps answer all monocolor decks, and anything that shares, like if you're playing Squirrel, you can kind of call Earth, and you can target the Wolves, the Madams, the Unes if they have it. Sometimes they'll play Kirin, and things of that nature. But either way, most decks aren't monocolor. But he specifically is threatening in against mono water, as well as mono winds and stuff like that. So he does answer a lot. That's why we have him on with at least one other one. We're also playing 3 Cagnazzo. He's probably the oddest one out. You're kind of always hoping to have him in there, like drop him first or second, so you can build up the counters. And also another good source of removal, right? Next, we have 3 Rydia. I wasn't originally, sold on the Rydia idea. I know Brian Cevallos played it in, in Orlando earlier this year. And then we actually saw it, I think we saw it also in the North Carolina one. And in the video that, if you haven't seen it, the feature match with Warp Golbez, I do play the Rydia as well. But the main thing is there's not enough, although we do have enough 4 characters to support this, I think my summon choices in general were, I don't want to say subpar, but I found myself a lot to be desired, right? Because we already have so much space committed to the Archfiends, to the Warp Golbez thing, and then finding Golbez, right? So much space is already taken into that, right? So for her, it's really just for the 2-cost spell, the 2-cost summons. While you're looking at this list, we have the Chocobos, the Kusiths, and a free Fenrir later, but that one doesn't really require her to do stuff. So, and we were talking about Scarjos. We have 1 Ishtola, 1 Theodore. Ishtola's just like a, last minute. We're going wide. We can kind of smell that, Hecaton or smell the Toto kind of thing. It does put that extra added layer of pressure. We only play 1 because we kind of search her, or we just draw and hold her. Again, the deck draws a lot, and it gets there fast enough that we don't have to worry about. And then with the recursion from the Kusiths, we can play another one if we need to. So the Theodore's one that I liked, that I found very good, that I kind of wish I can fit in another ones, but it really just helps. It's really just fine playing the one of. So when he enters, you can duel 3 active 4 characters, and break a cost 4 or more forward. Choose a character, a 4 or more, break it. So it has a lot of potential there. And then at the beginning of the attack phase, activate all your 4 forwards. So, it's a really solid card. It's a good out, again, to get rid of big obstacles, things that are kind of just prevent you. Honestly, my biggest concern here were Warriors of Light. Once a Warrior of Light drops, it's hard for this deck to do much. And so we kind of have answers. We kind of need answers for those two going forward. And Theodore's one of them. The Bygone was obviously just a Golbez searcher. We need more Earth to kind of facilitate some of these cool things. So that's kind of the other reason why Rydia is here, and the Fenrir and the Kusiths were prioritized. And you can put Bygone into the break zone while Golbez is out to choose a forward and break it. So it's only been helpful a couple of times. And I think, again, you can see it on some of the, you can see it that it does come through on the feature match against Mono Water. That's actually a really good showcase of the list. I know you guys have already seen that already, but if you haven't and you're just catching this this deck profile now, make sure to go swing on over to that other video and check it out, because it kind of shows you an actual real game where all the lines are kind of shown off and portrayed, so it's good. Yeah, we went over the Vayne and the Golbez. We have 1 Emperor, 1 Charlotta. The Charlotta's kind of, you don't actually want to open this. You want to draw this. If you do draw it, you don't put it warp right away. Your priority is getting these guys on Golbez on board while you have the other ones. Once Golbez is ticking, you can start Charlotta. Same thing with the Emperor, because what's going to happen is either they're going to answer some of these, or you're going to be short some. And so the Emperor is going to either work as 2 things. 1, remove the break zone, or 2, get one of these guys back, one of your Archfiends back. And Charlotta will also be able to search an Archfiend if you're missing one. In testing, I've definitely searched Barb on the last one, or Ishtola when I needed to, and then been able to, close out the games. And so I'd like to add another Charlotta, honestly. And so maybe, again, between Emperor, Charlotta, Ishtola, Theodore, and the 3 Clouds, which we'll go over in just a second, maybe we can make some adjustments. So, but yeah, she's kind of your one-all search card. So she for me, it was mostly get Ishtola or get Theodore, get Cloud, get Chocobo, because all of these are going to kind of help clear the way or or close out the games. On a second one, you're also finding the last piece. I will say I did search ScarJo once before, at least just so we can get the S off, because the S is very, very, very powerful. So, but yeah, so I kind of want to fit in a little, but again, just might need a little more testing for me. We have triple legendary Cloud. Now, I know so he fits in the colors for me, and he's dual colors, so he kind of fits the purpose of being able to sack for lightning, sack for wind. But he's also really, really good at answering a lot of obstacles for this deck. Warrior of Light, Cecil, Une are some of the biggest cards that I've ran into. I think you see me kill an Ash and something else, another 4-cost, two, like I'm killing 2 things with 1 for 2 or 4 is just absurd. So Cloud's a good control piece. Again, you're looking for cards to kind of make openings in the deck, so you can just continue to swing, and clearing 2 forwards while you cast, for example, a Kusith or something, or Chocobo this turn, and it's great. Yeah, and he kind of, like I said, the whole point is to kind of make way for you. So Cloud is very big on that one. Like, it's very, very, very helpful. 3 Chocobos. Now, this is probably the best thing. Also, just to be clear, this list had Althea in it before, and probably Norse Talon, like a 2-1 Norse Althea split. And once we realized the ban was coming through, we had to take it out. And so I'll talk about the backup changes in just a second too. But the Chocobo is by far one of the most important things, I think. And I'm actually quite surprised I don't see it in the other lists. Like in the other lists that have made it as far as they have, they're opting for the Amaterasus or the Mist Dragons and stuff like that. And although I do appreciate and I understand how important those cards are in the meta across all matchups, I think the Chocobo is one that's underappreciated more and more as Wind just kind of gets set off to the side. Yeah, if you see it there, it says market is a $30 card, and with good reason. So first things first, Chocobo is used both offensively and defensively in this list. And it's also used to kind of draw more cards, which is the other point I was getting to earlier with the Vayne and Golbez and how you're drawing a lot. So a few things. One, Golbez, if you don't have an Archfiend in your hand and you're kind of scrounging to draw more cards and find one, you can Chocobo on the stack, put an Archfiend back into your hand, draw a card, and then when the warp counter is removed, play said Archfiend again, draw another card. That's option 1. Option 2 is the cloud that we just went over. Being able to cast Cloud, break 2 things, and then on another turn bring him back and cast again, and break 2 other things. Also very important. I like the idea of Rydia being able to cast it for free, which is another reason why we only kept the backups to 2, because then it's just straight value, right? It's just like lots and lots of value. Same thing with the Vayne. If you feel like an unexpected Amaterasu kind of just steps on your plans or kind of makes you feel a little hopeless, the Chocobo's there to save that. Again, that's why my other option for Charlotta was to search the Chocobo, because although a lot of the cards are very important, being able to replay some of these cards are just as important in a lot of reasons. The final piece is the board wipe we were talking about with Barbariccia. If you happen to play Barbariccia and from the Golbez deal 6k, for example, you only have 3, you can always Chocobo her, bring her back, manually play her. Hopefully you have enough, at least one backup setup to do such a thing, and you're able to cast her again, and then just board clear the other 6k. And then so you have a lot of options here to just straight removal, straight replayability. And remember, all this is just drawing you more cards, so you're always finding more answers as you're going to. The Kusith is pretty self-explanatory, just a nice EX. I don't like playing a lot of decks with little EX bursts. This one only has 6, and it's a searcher and a recurrer. So the Kusith again is just get back the guys, mostly to get ScarJo S's, or anybody else that you just want to replay when you can. Again, the Rydia is just there to cast these for free, so whenever you're short on stuff, you can cast the Kusith or Chocobo on their turn, save things. Again, our biggest threat we found that is Warrior of Light. Warrior of Light just kind of complicates things for most of them. He can pretty much knock out most of them. with his ping, and you know, when that happens, it's kind of tough unless Golbez is out. So that's why we have so many options to kill him, and Fenrir is just that. Light and Dark forwards too, I don't think we worried about too many. I don't think we used it for that most of the times, but Warrior of Light was the biggest thing. The backups are simple. Class 8, one Class 8 just to kind of fill in the Earth and Wind aspect. We have 2 Kramis, 3 Sid, 2 Aldo, and a Zemus. All of this, the Gramis is to search your veins, obviously. Your Sid is you want Golbez. Aldo is to search Golbez. Sid also doubles to search pretty much anything else in the list. Any of the Archfiends if you open the Golbez, as well as the Rydia if you felt like you needed to. The Aldo is to search the Cloud and the Golbez primarily, obviously, because you don't have any actual other lightning characters in this list. And so your numbers are a little weird, but it seems to work. It works well enough. I've actually had more issues not being able to play an Archfiend in my hand for some reason than opening lightning cards to play these. So the Selkie was a nice addition that I found later. Reveal until you see fire or water. Your only fires are the Rubicantes and Cagnazos, and so you'll always hit an Archfiend with this one. We were playing I want to say it's like a Black Mage or another one of these standard units that flips for Earth and Wind, but it doesn't get us the same results, right? Because, you know, we have so many other Earth and Wind cards in here that it kind of just doesn't really hit us the same way. Like, it doesn't benefit us the same way, right? And the Zemus is not only just a category 4 backup, but it also has a little bit of recursion that you could use later on in the game. Get a forward back, and on damage 3, you get a backup back as well. So, you know, just for CP, this is very valuable. So that's it for the main list. We had a lot of fun with it. I think Soiree is probably one of the ones that we had most issues with, because once it's set up, unless we're like, even while we're aggroing it down, there's a lot of EX burst, so it kind of, I mean, with any aggro deck, of course, right? That's one of the biggest things, and I find that theirs was the most beneficial. This is not faster than 13 by any means as well. 13 is still the king aggro deck at the moment, again, before Opus 20, so a lot to think about. But I think for the most part, this deck has a good variety of like matchups. You know, in the Ice Earth control lists or anything Earth X control lists, if they're unable to have multiple board removals, which I know they do, but sometimes they don't. Like, you know, they're doing so many things, they have to answer your board constantly. It's tough for them, right? Because we're able to get so many bodies on board and attack so many times so quickly while still like drawing cards. So it's a fun deck. If you want to, guys, give it a try. Make sure to update it, obviously, to your liking. But this is where we are with it. Going to the Opus 20 editions, let's close some of these Adarinos. We have a lot of interesting stuff that came out. Obviously, we're going to go more into the Opus 20 stuff as we go. But Reeve is also nice. Enters the field, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 card among them, and add them to your hand, and add the other cards to the bottom. Just a small filter. Obviously, we could play the Chocobo, but this is better because it just says add a card. It doesn't matter. You can get the backup, the summon, the forward, whatever. So we could find some space for this. I thought this was interesting. Shadow Dragon as well. It's focused around Golbez, so I don't know how many I'd have to play to make this a little beneficial for us. But it seems with more time, I think we can figure this one out. But it might be worth looking into. Fenrir, I found, was also very interesting. So if Fenrir chooses a forward of cost 2 or less, which most of your forwards are, the cost required to cast Fenrir is free, so he's free. Again, cannot be chosen by your opponent's summons until the end of the turn. Now, this might have been more beneficial when what's his name? When Brynhildr was running more relevant, but we'll see as the meta progresses. This might be something you can add in there to kind of help keep the little guys like protected from your opponent's summons and stuff. And so I thought it would be useful. The Sephiroth, my spoiler reveal actually for the season. Warp 3 Lightning, kind of another good Warp Lightning target for our deck. Enters the field, choose a forward other than Sephiroth and break it, and then choose a forward of cost 3 or less, break it for an S. So yeah, it might just be worth it, right? Because when your opponent's not suspecting, Vayne is really good to kind of like for your opponent to be like unsure when these warps will actually happen. So turn 3, a warp 3 could actually turn into a warp 2, right, when they're least expected. And so being able to just clear the board and with a decent body on board isn't too bad. I think Estinian's just gonna go in everything. If you guys didn't hear me talk about it when we were streaming, but yeah, Estinian's just gonna go in every deck. It might not even be a Golbez deck at this point. It might just be Warp Estinian kind of deck. So this card is gonna be nuts. But either way, will very likely be a good addition to Mist. Warp for free, 4 turns. Look at the top card of your deck. You may put it into the break zone. This effect will only trigger if Mist is removed from the game, and when Mist enters, draw a card. So as you're going, remember when all of these at the start of main phase, Golbez, Vayne, Mist, Charlotte, all of these things will trigger at the same time. You get to choose what resolves first. So at the very beginning, you can always Mist, look on top, and be like, okay, I don't want to draw this. Pitch this, then Vayne will draw. There's so many ways to interact with that warp counter main phase thing, like that being able to help get you what you want faster while getting to other pieces also faster works, right? Being that she's free, also opening this up turn 1 and dropping Vayne turn 1 is also a good way to just speed up the game for yourself. So, and then when she comes in, just draw a card. Thanks, I love it, I appreciate it. And if unanswered, it's another 2k body that can just swing in for game, right? Like, what are they gonna do? Waste an Elvis on this? Waste a, they're gonna have to use an EX burst to answer a 2k forward. It's just ridiculous. So it's very strong, very do. Also, being water, we can add it in there to make Keknazo a little more playable as the game goes on, right? Because if we see multiples, Keknazo will, a Keknazo is actually impossible to cast without another Keknazo. So as long as we have Mists, maybe we can just free cast them as we go. And Beldat. This one was a very interesting one too that I found. So Warp 2, when Warp counter is removed from Beldat, your opponent puts the top 2 cards of their deck into the break zone. So a lot of disruption there. And then this effect will only trigger when Beldat removes the game. When Beldat enters the field, choose a forward in your opponent's break zone. Remove it from the game. You can cast it as though you owned it at any time you normally could cast it. So adding that extra layer of thievery is something that I wanted to do originally with the list because of Zidane, but this works better for us, right? Because we can, I think Beldat's a fantastic card, honestly. And being able to draw from it, disrupt 2, and then steal something from your opponent is just a fantastic combination of like effects that a deck like this Warp Golbez could use. Where we would fit them, I don't know yet, right? If I'm being quite honest, if we can get around taking off some of this Earth stuff, like the Rydia Bygone things, I'll be more favorable for it. Now that we have more lightning and wind stuff, like, Beldat, Estinian, Sephiroth, even the Reeve, I'm more inclined to build a list like that. But again, we'll have to see. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the list. If you're not already following and liking the videos, I would appreciate it if you do so, for sure. Stay tuned. There's a lot of Opus 20 stuff coming, and yeah, just a lot of content coming, I think. So be sure to be on the lookout for all of that. And as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll see you guys later. Hope you liked it.